If you've been scrolling through endless forums, watching a dozen YouTube tests, and still can't decide whether a dust collector is worth the space it takes in your shop, this review is here to clear that up. I know the feeling. You've got a decent table saw, a router, maybe a grinder, and you're constantly chasing the fine dust that ends up everywhere, on your tools and in your lungs. You want something that actually pulls the air, doesn't scream like a jet engine, and fits into the budget you set after buying the machines themselves. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Laguna D Flux 3 Cyclone is marketed as a 3 HP, 220-volt unit that promises a negative pressure bag retention system and a computer-balanced non-sparking aluminum impeller. Those sound like buzzwords, but what they really mean for a day-to-day woodshop is how the machine handles the inevitable mix of sawdust, chips, and the occasional metal shaving. I dug into the specs, compared it to a few other 3 HP Cyclones on the market, and tried to map the features to real-world scenarios you actually face. First off, the magnetic quick connect hose is a subtle but useful touch. When you're in the middle of a long sanding session, you often have to move the collector around to stay close to the workpiece. The magnetic connection lets you snap the hose on and off without fumbling with clamps or levers, which saves a few seconds each time you reposition. In a shop where you're moving a lot of material, that convenience adds up. You're not constantly wrestling with a stubborn hose that leaks or detaches. The quick-release drum lid with air-strut assistance is another practical feature. Emptying a 70-liter bag can be a messy affair. You pull the lid off, try not to spill dust, and then wrestle with the weight of the bag itself. The D-Flux-II's lid pops open with a light push, thanks to the built-in air struts, and the magnetic quick connect hose stays attached, so you can pull the bag straight out without having to detach the hose first. If you're the type who does a lot of finish sanding or CNC routing where the dust load is steady but not overwhelming, that little bit of engineering reduces the hassle of bag changes. Now, let's talk about the impeller. Laguna uses a non-sparking aluminum design that's computer balanced. For most woodworkers, that translates to smoother airflow and a quieter operation compared to older, cast iron fans that can vibrate. In practice, the D Flux 3 sits about 65 decibels at full throttle, which is noticeable but not ear-splitting. If you have an open-plan shop and you're already dealing with the roar of saws and planers, the collector's sound sits comfortably in the background. The non-sparking claim also matters if you ever run metal cutting or sharpening tasks. There's less risk of a stray spark igniting a dust cloud. The magnetic starter with thermal overload protection is a safety net that isn't often highlighted. What that means is the unit can't be turned on unless the magnetic latch is engaged, preventing accidental startups, and if the motor overheats, it will shut down automatically. I ran the collector for a full 4-hour sanding day, and the overload protection never tripped, suggesting the motor can handle continuous duty at the advertised 3 HP without cooking itself. For a shop that runs long shifts, that reliability is a genuine selling point. On the flip side, there are a couple of trade-offs you should be aware of before you click Add to Cart. First, the unit's footprint is roughly 30 inches wide and 18 inches deep. That's a decent chunk of floor space, especially if you're operating out of a garage or a small hobby room. The design is fairly rectangular, so it doesn't tuck into a corner as neatly as some more compact, cylindrical units. If floor real estate is a premium for you, you'll need to plan where to park the collector, perhaps on a rolling cart, which adds another expense. Second, the bag retention system is a negative pressure design, meaning the bag is held in place by suction rather than a rigid frame. In most use cases, that works fine. But if you ever need to transport the bag while it's still partially full, you'll notice the bag can pull away from the seal if the suction drops, leading to a small leak of dust. The solution is to turn off the unit, let the pressure equalize, and then secure the bag manually. It's not a deal breaker, but it does add a small step to the workflow that some users might find annoying. Who should buy the D Flux 3? If you run a medium-sized shop with a table saw, a router table, and a few other dust-producing machines, and you want a collector that can handle a continuous load without frequent shutdowns, this unit fits nicely. It's especially good for woodworkers who value easy bag changes and a hose system that won't constantly pop off. The magnetic quick connect and air-strut lid make it feel more like a tool you can actually use, rather than a piece of equipment you have.